Welcome to the Earthworks Podcast, where our team will share the jargon of carbon from many of our turf friends from the past 30 years.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joel Simmons, and this is the Earthworks Podcast. And today I have celebrities with me, and one in particular who I've known since he was a puppy. And I think Mike Fontaine and Amanda Fontaine from the Ledges Golf Course up in South Hadley, Massachusetts. And if you're at all paying attention to any of the publications in this industry, you've probably seen them together. They are father and daughter, and it's quite the story. And Mike, I've known you since the early 90s. Is that what we determined?
That's what I remember.
We were, what, 13 years old at the time? How old were we?
Early 20s?
Ooh, that's scary, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. That gets very, very, very scary. So, Mike,
I think it's 36 years together, Joel.
Yeah, that's actually quite frightening. Yeah. When I thought of calling you, and then I realized that Amanda was we could get Amanda on. Got very excited about that because I'd much rather talk to her than you anyway. But let's talk to you and go about. So I met you. Where did I meet you? Where were you working in the early 90s when I met you?
I was at Northfield Golf Club back then when we first met.
Yeah, so that goes way, way back. And so Western Massachusetts, which is where you're actually from, Western Massachusetts, right?
That's correct. We're actually born and raised in South Hadley.
So they didn't let you leave home? Is that the problem? Is that no other community would invite you in? Is that what happened? That
would be the true statement.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. But you've been doing this for a long time. You're a UMass guy?
Yeah, I spent some time at the place they call Stockbridge.
Yeah, that place.
Yeah, like Amanda, I have a certificate in turf or plant and soil science.
And how long have you been at Ledges now?
Oh, I think it's been 18 years I've been with Ledges Golf Club.
And more importantly, why would you enslave your daughter to become a superintendent at the course you're working at?
Well, that's a pretty good question. I mean, one, she's a Fontaine, so I can attest that she was dropped as a small child.
Yes, and her mother hasn't let you live it down since then, has she?
Or actually, her mom just texted me.
Of course. I'm sorry, Amanda.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
I told you we were going to.
Amanda was literally born on a golf course, with the exception of the childbirth. I mean, we have pictures of her in a walker on the putting green in Northfield. She got on the bus at the golf course. She spent hours and hours, just riding around the golf course. And then, when I went to Ledges, geez, I mean, you're probably, 15, 16 then?
I was 15. I needed a work permit to start working
15.
at the pro shop.
And
wow.
Before the golf course even opened, Amanda and I were driving around in the snow in a golf cart, just seeing our new property. And yeah, she's been with me, thank God, ever since. And it's a pretty good story. She worked her way up. I mean, literally, she was taking tee times and washing golf carts and in the pro shop, and got a little older. And I don't want to take away Amanda's story, but she came over on the maintenance side, and we just threw her with a weed whacker, and
she actually worked for Dad.
She worked for me, yeah. And worked her way up. And the only thing I've ever told her is, don't let anyone outwork you. And that still rings true today. Nobody else outworks Amanda. Our membership is proud to, because they know how hard she's working and how dedicated. And then she made the mistake, Joel, of wanting to spread her wings and wanted to get a job without anybody's help or influence. And one day I got a phone call from a golf course in New Hampshire asking about Amanda Fontaine. She applied for an assistant superintendent position. I said, "Oh, that's neat." I said, "Yeah."
And you didn't know this?
I did not know this.
Good for you, Amanda.
The next
I needed a summer job. I was coaching college ice hockey up in New Hampshire, and I needed a summer job.
Why not?
And the next day, my phone rings again. So I pull her in my office. I go, "There's something you want to tell me?" And she had that shit-eating grin. And she goes, "What do you mean?" I go,
"I'm out of here, Dad.
Why
I'm
are
flying
people,
away?"
Yep. Why are people asking me about you and assistant superintendent's jobs in New Hampshire? And she had a look of shock on her face. And she's like, "How did you find out?" And I'm like,
well, of course they found out.
"Of course." Yeah, Amanda, it's golf. It's
a very small community that we live in.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And she told me her desires, and she was honest and said, I didn't want you to influence people hiring me, and I want to go out and do it on my own. So you can't be more proud of a statement than that.
Right.
And I said, well, okay, but if I can help, let me help. And sure enough, she got a job and she left us.
Did you cry?
Of course I cried.
His shirt turned blue from tears.
Yes, I bet.
Oh, and then, boy, were you gone 3 years, Amanda?
Yeah, 3 years.
So you worked up there for 3 years?
Yeah.
Oh, good for you. All right, let me talk to Amanda, Michael. You just
sure.
Sit back there and go ahead. So, what's your earliest memory of the golf course? Do you have one? What's the first thing you remember? I mean, you probably have a million of them, I'm sure, but
no, I don't have. There's nothing clear in my mind. Like just driving around,
yeah,
playing in bunkers, and then having to rake them afterwards.
Oh, darn.
Yeah, I know, right? Just lots of, and I played a lot of golf growing up too, and every day after work I would go and play golf. So you need to learn.
Ask you that. So you're a golfer?
Yeah, you need to learn the game to be able to do a job like this, and so.
It's funny how many people don't play golf in the roles that you folks are in, but I think it's very important. And one of the things that I've, certainly through this podcast, a lot of people, when we're talking about trying to find labor, the one thing that they always ask when vetting, and this is, I think, a great lesson, is, make sure that the person you're vetting to come on the team has a love for the game of golf. Because that's really what we're doing there, doing it for. How old were you when you thought you were going to actually make this your career? Do you remember?
Well, I'm 29 now, so I haven't, not yet.
So you haven't decided if it's your career or not?
Well, like when I said before, I moved up to New Hampshire to coach hockey.
Yeah.
So that was what I really wanted to do. And then COVID hit, so they didn't have any seasons. So, I was at the golf course full time all the time. And then that just took off, and, furthering your education after that and getting different certifications here, there. And, I had all the certifications you could in New Hampshire, and, that were usable on the golf course. And just kept learning. And then when the job opened up down here, I think it opened up twice while I was up there, and I just didn't apply. And then
because you didn't want to work for Dad?
I wanted to, not that, I've done that plenty, and it,
right,
not a problem. But
and I don't mean that as critical as it sounds. But I can appreciate the need to break away. And, and quite honestly, it's a good thing for any assistant superintendent, is to get out there and experience other work, habits and people's, styles and things of that nature. So.
Yeah. And I worked super close with the super up there, Dan. He was great. And he taught me everything from irrigation to real maintenance. I mean, I had a good base, I worked hand in hand with our mechanic here for years. But, Dan showed me a different way of looking at things, and, I didn't want to apply here and not have the qualifications or the skills or the experience needed. Like, it wouldn't be fair to me. It wouldn't be fair to anyone who hired me. It just wasn't the right time.
Yeah.
So, and even if, someone took a chance and it failed, it would look bad. And like Michael was saying before, outwork everyone. And I couldn't do that without having all the knowledge I could.
Yeah. So
and I'm not saying that I don't learn every day here. I mean, it's still,
you better
every day. Every day is a new day, but
yeah. And it's a new challenge. How big is your crew?
I have 6 and a mechanic right now. 2 of them are like part-time-ish.
Will you pick up more during the summer?
I hope so.
You're trying to.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I literally got an application on my desk today, and so
yeah. So is there, and I'm not sure how to ask this question, is there ever been a challenge for you under the auspices of nepotism, working for your dad? I mean, has that ever caused you any problems with crew or anybody on the team?
For the most part, with the team, not so much. I mean, and since I took over, I have one person on the crew that's returning. And so, you know, he's not their boss. I am.
Yeah.
They rarely see him. And if they do, they either run and hide or they, you know, give him a high five.
It's like most of us do.
Yeah. So it's, you know, if he goes and seeks someone out, something's wrong. He needs them to fix something right away. But I mean, I don't think anyone, and like he said, you know, I make it a point to work circles around people.
Yeah, of course.
So, you know, that, and, you know, if anything, I hear it from golfers saying, oh, it must be nice that you got this job because you're his daughter and you're a girl. So it's an optics thing. And I'm like, you have no idea.
Yeah, they have no idea, do they?
No, like, you know, I get stopped in the parking lot saying, hey, you know, how do you get stuff done with you just being a girl? And I'm like, what?
Nobody asks you that, do they really?
Oh, all the time.
Oh,
I have, I'm sitting in my seat, and above my seat, it says superintendent's office, and people like vendors will come in and say, hey, is the superintendent here? Can you give this to him? And I'm like,
and do you say, no, superintendent is not here, so get out and don't ever come back?
I point to the dog, say you can give it to him.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's so funny because there's so many good women in this industry, and I've been fortunate to work with the women in golf through the Open and some of these other things. And it's just, I mean, you guys run circles around people. It's just amazing that you have to listen to that kind of crap anymore in this day and age. But the proof is in the pudding, and, you know, you show it every day. Let me ask you this. You're working with Dad. You're now on the maintenance crew coming in from the pro shop or wherever else you were. Do you remember the first day on the maintenance crew? Do you remember what you had to do and what was it going through your head at the time? Do you remember what was happening?
I really don't. I think like one of my first days, I learned how to cut cups, and I was told, don't screw this up because it's very important. So
by your dad?
Probably no.
Oh, good.
I guarantee it was a guy named John, because he was here for a long time too. And, you know,
well, you can't screw up cutting cups. I mean, I don't care who you are, you know, I mean,
have you seen Michael cut a cup? You can screw it up.
Well, that goes without saying. Yeah. Which is why he has you now, though. That's the point.
That's it. Yeah.
So, you know, so you might not be able to cut a cup, but he's not a dummy. He knows how to find the right people to bring in. Just happens to be his daughter.
Tell you how to do it. Just don't ask him to do it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. He can tell you.
What's going on here?
Yeah. This is your roast right now, Michael. Michael, tell me, you know, I mean, you've been in this business now a long time. I mean, you know, you and I kind of grew up together in this thing. And like I said, I've seen you all over. Where's the business for you these days? I mean, what is it? You know, you're the general manager. I don't even know what you do anymore. Of course, nobody probably knows what you do, but what do you do these days? And I mean that with great respect.
I'm embarrassed to say a lot of it's crisis management and see what comes up.
Yeah.
You know, we used to plan our work and work our plan, but it's been ever since COVID, and I will say our biggest challenge is labor.
Yeah, of course.
And trying to help all the departments. Unfortunately, Amanda's department is the one lacking, and it's been lacking for a couple of years now, and just trying to
labor
and trying to keep and retain good help. The town of South Hadley has been gracious enough. IGM has been gracious enough. We've built her budget by over $100 and something thousand just to help.
Oh, really? Good.
Attract more.
Is that mostly going to salary?
Salary,
yeah.
And I don't need to tell you the price of fertilizer and fuel has gone up. But
hey, let's not talk about that.
Even I know it's out of your control, Joel.
Yeah.
But
although we've been pretty good. I mean, ours has stabilized compared to all the synthetic guys, because and we're finally sitting in a pretty good bird seed now. But yeah, everything's gone. I mean, there's nothing that hasn't gone up.
So I mean, make no doubt about it, my favorite part is being outside. When she lets me go out there, I still enjoy spending time out there. I mean, there's no better part of my day than riding a golf course with Amanda. But I'm inside a lot. Food and beverage is a handful for us.
I bet.
Golf ops, just dealing with our members, and it doesn't seem like a difficult job, but when Amanda and I live literally across the street from each other, but I don't come home till midnight because that's when the
board
league
meetings
gets home.
Yeah.
And and she calls me at 4:45 in the morning, say we have no maintenance, no power and maintenance. It's like,
and he's sound asleep, right?
Was that yesterday?
Yeah, that was yesterday.
Last Tuesday, last Thursday.
But unfortunately, it's been hectic. It's been crazy. Golf is thank God it's booming.
Yeah. So how much has that impacted you guys since COVID has hit? How crazy is it?
Our annual income went from being under $1 million to last year we brought in 1.5 million.
Wow, that's unbelievable. How many rounds? What are we talking about in terms of rounds?
We're probably only doing 28,000, or maybe not even that many, 26,000.
What were you doing before COVID?
I'd have to look back, low 20s.
Okay, so it's still a substantial increase and a lot of wear and tear on the property.
Yeah, and our number one selling point is literally the condition of the golf course.
Yeah,
that's our marketing slogan.
Well, thank God you got a good superintendent there.
Thank God we got a good superintendent.
Yeah,
but so the days fly by. I know I'll usually see Amanda around lunchtime. I mean, just in our weekly text messages, you're like, how's Amanda? I'm like, oh, I don't know, I haven't seen her.
She's busy working. Leave me alone.
Yeah, she's busy working, and I ask her to do something, and you have the information you need from her, not from me yet. So
right,
it's a lot more paperwork for me, but it's good. I have no complaints. I work for a great company. We have a great golf course. I don't think there's two more people in the world don't love ledges more than Amanda and myself.
Well, that's good.
I'm blessed with a dedicated team, from Amanda to our pro shop staff to our restaurant staff.
Yeah.
It's you want to talk about a family world or how small it is. I mean, literally everybody in our family works at the golf course. I mean,
Amanda's it's a family business.
Maddie, Amanda's younger sister's with us. My wife works with us.
You're making your sister slaves? Is that what you're telling me?
She works in the restaurant. She knows better than to come work for me.
I don't know about that. Maddie will do anything.
She'll be there soon.
Maddie backpack blows. Maddie moves tees and gets trash. Yeah. So Maddie does whatever Maddie needs to do.
Maddie is literally, she does everything. She does.
That's a great story.
Accounting.
Yeah, accounting for me, because I don't like being in the office. She's in the
can't see the screen anymore.
No, she's like Amanda, she's a really good kid, and she's dedicated. She loves the golf course too. She is going to be leaving us though, unfortunately. Yeah, she's going to get a real job. She doesn't want to be, we got to check her DNA. Not
this is the family business. Don't you know? You got to work in the family business.
We know.
She's going to go work for the USDA, so she's kind of still.
Oh, all right.
She's one of the smart ones like you, Joel. She's,
I never worked for the USDA.
Well, you were teaching, and
I was getting kicked out of universities. That's all. Yeah. So tell me, Michael, about the history of ledges. I mean, what's the history of this? How old is the course? Who was the architect? South Hadley, just so everybody knows, is Western Massachusetts. So it's Berkshires technically, right?
Nope, not technically the Berkshires. Hampshire.
You're actually north of
Springfield.
Springfield. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're right in the Connecticut River Valley.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So
I'm wrong.
Yeah, the Berkshires a little further west than us. But the golf course opened in 2001, designed by Howard Maurer. And unfortunately, it was a rush to open. And I'm going to give a shameless plug. They didn't understand soils, Joel.
Oh, shocking.
they kept pumping synthetic fertilizer to try to make it grow in, and the fertilizer wasn't releasing.
Shocking.
Yeah, I bet you have never heard that one before.
Never heard that.
So,
but do tell.
Yes. So when I first got there, the first thing, myself and I think we work with Tom Irwin, out of Burlington, Mass, for our rep. We pulled soil samples, and that might have been the last time you gave me a compliment, because a couple of years later we pulled some more soil samples, and I believe you said, "My God, that guy might know what he's doing over there."
I never said that, Mike. Not about you, anyway.
I might have been drinking.
That doesn't sound like me at all. But
doesn't it? I know.
But obviously you do. So there you go. There's your one compliment.
So yeah, we've got the golf cart turned around quickly and started growing grass.
Do you remember how bad the soil samples were? I mean, what was it's way beyond my memory capacity at this point, but I remember looking at them.
Yeah.
I have to have them in my office somewhere.
You probably do. And if not, we have them in a database somewhere. I can dig them up.
Yeah, they were, oh my goodness.
Yeah, they were pretty bad.
Let's just say some of the pearls were still, when we dig irrigation holes, we can still find them from some of the synthetic fertilizer.
Yeah. Well, and that, of course, is just
frills.
Yeah, that's sad. I mean, it's bad biology, and you guys have really, you've really become a great, and I'm sure both of you have become great students of agronomy, and that's really what makes the thing happen, which is good. And you and I have talked about this many, many times over the years.
Especially, with the town of South Hadley, we want to protect our environment too. We're still working with the Audubon Society.
Are you Audubon members?
I was just featured as their whatever member of the month.
Of course you were. Why doesn't that shock me at all, Amanda?
And that's, our flagship 545 comes into play.
There you go. That's my flagship, by the way, not yours.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Yeah,
he
that's
claims
all right.
It
was, you probably were one of the first people in the country that use it, to be honest with you.
He said he was holding your hand when you both invented it.
Yes, I've heard that from so many superintendents. But it's probably close with Mike.
You don't want me to start talking about the triangle, do you, Joel?
No, let's not go there. Let's keep certain things. Did South Hadley always own the course?
Yes, they built it. They had another company in before us, and they decided to make a change and brought in IGM, and 18 years later we haven't looked back, and we've only continued to grow. Getting Ledges in the shape that it is now has helped us achieve more contracts in the area. So it's our flagship for New England.
So let's talk about IGM for those who don't know IGM. Explain IGM. It's a management company.
Yep.
Out of Florida.
Out of Lakeland, Florida. We basically, specialize in golf course maintenance. So that's our specialty. Group of superintendents got together and started a company down in Florida. So we have a couple of properties such as, Ledges in South Hadley, Rose Hill down in Hilton Head, where we do full management. But for the most part, we just like to maintain golf courses. And
are you both employees of IGM?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Everybody who works here is an IGM employee.
Okay, so all the
pro shop, the starters.
So all the management of the property is IGM.
Yep.
Not just turf.
Not just turf.
Gotcha. And then you just send checks to South Hadley, and everybody's happy.
That's it.
That's not bad. Now, and so you were telling me, Mike, your management in IGM above and beyond just working at the Ledges.
Yeah, Ledges is 90% of my job. I, since I became general manager, we do have help for me to go out there, but I still enjoy going to other golf courses. A few miles away, we have Chicopee Country Club. Out on the coast, we have Widow's Walk. We have a regional from Virginia who comes up and helps me because, sometimes I just can't get away. But I enjoy, seeking out new contracts. Like you, Joel, there's nothing better than riding a golf course and knowing we can make it better. And once we get things stable here in South Hadley, I can afford to disappear for the afternoon. It's just been a little hectic lately.
Yeah. Amanda, how long have you been there now as superintendent?
This will be my third season.
Okay. And I assume you inherited a property that was already in fairly decent shape from Dad?
Oh, I didn't take it over from him. There were, what, 3 superintendents between? I don't really know much about the in between years, so maybe he could touch on. I didn't.
We had a couple. I forget. We had maybe 2 or 3 superintendents. 2 left for better jobs, and then we brought Amanda in, to fill a void.
Well, then let me start with you, Michael. When you got there, what was the place like? What kind of shape was it in?
Oh, and I mean no disrespect. It's just it was in poor shape. It was thin. It wasn't what we call turf grass healthy or soil healthy.
Yeah.
It was young and immature. And it was just, it was kind of sad to see a brand new golf course in such poor condition.
And what year was this?
Oh God,
2006.
It opened in 2004.
So it was 3-4 years old when you got there.
Yep.
So they grew it in pretty heavily with a lot of synthetics and thinned it all out. And so
they still had tree issues and
I ask this question a lot on this platform, to superintendents. I mean, you walk into a property like that, and again, I mean no disrespect, but not necessarily what you would consider, in great shape. What's the procedure of the interview process? I mean, how do you go in there and say, hey, your place is a dog track, and here's what my vision is? I mean, and I say that because I want you to give folks listening, some advice as to how to handle that conversation, because a lot of people walk into a property that, is probably not in the best of shape, but they have a vision for it and they can see the potential, like clearly the both of you have on your property. Something was good, but it just needed a lot of TLC. But how do you sell that to a board or whoever you're interviewing with and say, hey, your place sucks, but I can make it really, really good? And I'm sure that's not the verbiage that you would use. I would hope not anyway.
Well, unfortunately, sometimes you have to be blunt. You have to ask the question, why am I here? You brought me here to affect change. And unfortunately, sometimes that change is cutting down trees, that change to get some airflow.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is, that's just reality. We can't grow grass in a cave. I remember one time 18 years ago when I first got there, I had to remind them what the definition of insanity was because they were stuck in the ways
right
of the young golf course. And, you're expecting, just because you changed management companies and you were going through superintendents left and right, it's, you got to give me the flexibility and the tools to do the job. And if I don't do the job, then you fire me. And I had that conversation with the town administrator, and she looked right at me and she says, I'm not afraid to fire you. I said, don't worry, I'll be gone if that happens.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know when it's time.
We went to work, and we're still working at it. You have to develop a relationship with the conservation committee. Education sometimes takes a while, but you have to develop trust. You heard us use an upfront contract. If I don't do my job, you have to fire me. That's with anybody. That's the town of South Hadley. That's IGM. That's just the nature of the beast. And they started reaping the rewards of good agronomic tools and practices, and people started coming to the golf course. And now, we host, PGA sectionals, and our biggest one is coming up next year, where Amanda and I are already prepping for, is we're hosting the Massachusetts Public Links Championship.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
So yeah, she started with some tree clearing, and, we're working in areas that between fairways, just anything to help with air movement, help with getting golfers through the golf course, some tee expansion. She'll be sodding some green surrounds in the next couple of weeks. Extra aerification and top dressing has started. Aerification of fairways, dethatching of fairways. I mean, just all this to
get ready for the tournament.
We're thinking next August already. That's
really good.
Sights set on. So yeah, it's been a neat experience. It's all about communication.
Yeah.
We still have to manage our expectations. I mean, everybody who knows me knows I don't stop. I just keep going and going and going. I drive everyone nuts in between. And Amanda's not immune to that. I mean,
no, she's known you for a long time. She's probably learned how to let it roll off her back.
Right. And I was going to interject while she was speaking, because for the people who think she got the job because she's my daughter, have no idea the life this kid's been through. I've had the privilege of coaching her and her sister all through high school and as young kids. And she knows, unfortunately, if you're the coach's kid, expectations are higher.
Yeah.
They expect more from you. And it's even true in this case. She has to do it better than anybody else.
Yeah.
She's held to a higher standard. I don't think
that's a lot of weight, Amanda, between getting abused for being dad's daughter and being a woman. I mean, that's a lot of pressure on you. Did it ever get to you?
It's just, you take every day like it's a new day. And then when you go home, it's, your brain doesn't shut off, but, it can wait until tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's the, especially your first year anywhere, that's the hard part is, you want it better right now, not tomorrow. And then you find yourself working 12-hour days and you're just swimming and nothing. And so It's just, you're treading water. You're not making any leeway or headway, getting anywhere fast at all. And, it's just trying to differentiate the different, goals. And so you have to set achievable goals every day. With our irrigation system, it's like get 3 heads done and fixed and up and running that day. And if you get any more, it's a bonus. If you get those 3, you're golden.
Right, exactly. So let me start by, Amanda, asking you your agronomy philosophy. I mean, you probably got a lot of that from your dad, I'm guessing. But how would you describe your agronomic philosophy now that you're the big cheese on the property? What's a priority to you?
Well, right now, and when I, accepted this job, our biggest thing here was, along with nutrition, water management.
Good.
Obviously you have to start with a good nutritional balance and basis. Soil nutrition was, and I'm not casting any aspersions, but it was lacking. Water management was not where it should be. We were fighting with moss. We were fighting.
Wow.
Thatch.
You were holding moisture at the surface?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? Do you know?
I think just overwatering.
Okay.
And then my first year here, it was wet. And somehow,
Mother Nature wet.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we were, I work really closely with our Tom Irwin rep, and somehow in the wettest year that we've had, we eradicated moss. So,
wow.
And that's a lot to do with, water management and moving water through the soil profile and
surfactants.
That's it. Yep.
Spiking, venting, I'm sure.
I think we vented. Well, we pulled the core in the spring. We vented in July. We vented in August, and then we pulled the core in the fall, and then we did almost a 1/2-inch solid tine in December.
Yeah.
The first year.
So let me ask you this, because I ask every especially young superintendents, how do you learn how to water? I mean, when I was at Rutgers, and I've told this story many times on the podcast, it was the hardest thing to teach a budding superintendent how to manage water, because it truly is an art. It's not just, standing out there with a hose and making sure everything's wet. Knowing how to water properly and not overwater, and, obviously not underwater, but I think overwatering is the biggest concern. A lot of young superintendents get nervous that, they don't know what to do, so they pull the hose and start watering.
Right.
How do you learn that, and how do you teach it?
Up in New Hampshire, it wasn't as big of a, we were further north. The temperatures weren't as they are here. The golf course was much more mature, and they had the soils and, the roots to be able to water it at night, set it, forget it, go home. And so coming here, it's a totally different climate, microclimate, throughout the areas of the golf course. Even we have 4 holes that are across a bridge in what we could call the jungle, because it's just a totally different climate and the humidity is even different right there. So
just across the other side of the property.
Yeah.
Wow. Because of
probably
trees?
What, like a mile away from here?
Yeah.
The other side of the property.
Because of trees?
So trees, it's in a wetland. It sits literally a spit in the wind from the river. So it's all, very different than, and I'm guessing there's a good elevation change between, the office and the pro shop.
So you have to manage essentially 2 different golf courses on the same property.
Yeah, so like this spring when we aerated, I did a different spacing, different depth for the greens across the bridge than we did for the rest of the golf course.
More aggressive, I assume.
Correct.
Yeah. More amendments, more anything? I mean,
we try and keep it consistent, consistency's huge, but for the most part, it gets a little bit more top dressing when it gets top dressed. It'll take whatever you throw at it right now. And so one of the big things when I got here, those greens over there were fighting for their lives. And, we came through with nutrition, and tried to, got them back to where they needed to be.
Yeah.
And like Mike was saying before, it's just, there's corridors of trees. There's no airflow. There's no sun. It's tough. But
are you able to cut trees down?
Not really. It's a wetland back there, right. So it's all protected, and we'd have to go through the correct channels to be able to take out anything that we would need to.
So you literally are managing a whole different golf. How many holes are on that side of the property?
4.
Okay, so you got 4 holes that are completely different. I assume the soil is all the same. I mean, at least the green construction, they were all the same.
Yes.
Were you fighting sodium and or bicarbonates? Were you fighting those issues at all, or do you fight those issues?
Yes.
What's your water like? Do you know? I mean, I know you take water samples. So how good or bad is your water?
We actually just did water samples last year, and I'd have to look.
Yeah.
We made. The pH was higher than what we expect. I don't know if it was a change in the town water, but it's
all city water.
I believe not from the irrigation.
The spray tank water is city water, but the irrigation water is from the Connecticut River.
Oh, directly out of the river.
Yeah.
So that can be pretty variable then.
Yeah, it's not bad water. I mean, it doesn't strip anything, but it doesn't have a bunch of nutrients either. So
right.
So it's adequate, I would say.
Amanda, do you have a hard time teaching any of the crew how to water? I mean, I that's got to be like one of the first lessons you teach anybody coming on board that's handling a hose. And what's the trick? I mean, how do you teach a new person how to hold the hose properly and water properly?
I usually will show by example.
Yeah.
Taking them around to see, like, this is what you're looking for, and we use the pogo stick moisture meter.
Yeah.
And so, that's pretty easy to use. And so I have a set percentage that is a oh no, and then a go.
Is that what it's listed? So there's a piece of tape that says oh no. It's kind of like our blood sugar, isn't it, Mike? Oh no.
Hey Joel, I don't even know how to use that thing. I just walked out.
Thank God you have her.
He doesn't wear socks, so he puts his bare foot on it and can feel it that way.
Hey, that's old school, but I like it.
Yeah,
I use my finger.
Just
figure it out if it's moist or not.
Yeah, I'll take my knife and cut a little section and put your hand in there. You can feel the temperature difference. You can feel the moisture. But that takes lots of practice. Like, I haven't been doing it as long as you guys have, but if I'm cutting a cup in the morning, you can feel right on the base of that plug, what you got for moisture. Stick the soil together. If it falls apart, you need some water.
And you're intuitive, obviously. So, you've grown up with this, but you're clearly intuitive. So, and that's really the thing that you need to teach people. Do you guys deal with any sodium battles at all? Do you have sodium buildup during the summer months?
Sometimes we've had some sodium-induced wilt, but we keep it pretty clean right now. We do some good flushes. gypsum rinsings and stuff like that. We stay on top of that.
Yeah, I mean that's that subtle wilt that a lot of especially young people in the business don't really understand. It's wilting, so it must be water, and they pull the hose out when in fact it's chemical instead of moisture, and that's part of learning the game, is figuring out what you're really dealing with. And like you said, by feeling the soil. I mean, I always and you've seen me do this, Mike. I walked around forever with a probe, and the first thing I would do is smell it, and everybody looked at me like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? And I'm wanting to see if there's anything anaerobic. I would assume if you were fighting moss, you were probably fighting some anaerobic conditions there for a while too when you got on board, Amanda.
Yeah, we did more rinsings than I've ever, just try and move water. And so, yeah, I've had some people look at me funny when I cut a cup and I take the plug and I smell it.
Yes.
I get, the guy mowing greens next to you is looking at like, what are you doing? And I'm like, you don't want to take a bite? Like,
yeah, it's tasty actually. Explain for folks that are listening, what you mean by rinse-in. What's a rinse-in program to you? And so why?
We, we'll, in our rinse-in programs, we will rinse in for, if we're doing nutrition, we're doing it for the soil, for the roots. And so we'll water anywhere from 10 minutes to 15 minutes after, running the irrigation cycle on that green, just to move the, whatever I just sprayed into the soil profile. Yeah. So,
and you're spraying soil-based materials. You're spraying wetting agents, probably a humic acid product.
Yep.
Things of that nature.
Yep, any kind of root pathogen.
Don't you say Calvantage, Amanda. Don't you give it to him.
I don't rinse in Calvantage.
I'm not asking.
Sorry.
This isn't a commercial. No, don't say that. But you're using, I mean, but what you're not doing this. The difference here is that it's not a foliar approach. It's not something Correct. You're just trying to get the plant. You're trying to feed roots. You're trying to feed microorganisms, and you're getting that surfactant in there that's going to move water out of that profile. And it sounds like it's been working. I mean, based on what you're telling me, just listening to you here, having that moss problem, man, that has to be one of the biggest, most powerful programs you've got. You guys must have dealt with since you've been there for sure.
Yeah, it was just absolutely crazy. And with that, holding all that moisture having it that readily available all the time really made it impossible to grow roots, because you're putting all that moisture right in that top inch and a half. Yeah. That's why would roots need to dive any deeper than to get their water when it's right there at the top.
And so, Joel, these are USGA greens. That was the sad part about it. That's where my frustration came from.
Sand build, yeah. That's not good. That's not good at all.
Yeah, we had algae in May, my first year.
Really?
And it was. I sent a picture to our Tom Irwin rep, and I go, "What is going on?" And he was like, "I'll be right there."
I'll be over in an hour. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. So
now, was this across the whole course or just on those four ugly
entire
holes?
Golf course?
So everywhere across the property, you were fighting that, and you think that was from overwatering?
That's my best guess. I mean, if you looked at the soil profile, there was very little sand. There was lots of thatch accumulation, and there were minimal roots. We were fighting root pythium right out of the gate. As soon as the sun came up, we were losing turf left and right and sending a soil sample out, and they're like, "You have root pythium, good morning." And we're like, okay, let's.
Great call. Yeah. So, just like when your doctor calls at 7 a.m. and your pathologist calls and says you got when the pathologist calls you directly, it's never good, right?
That's it. Yeah.
Or when the agronomist walks on property and goes, "Wow, that's so cool." It's never, ever a good thing to hear that thing. Amanda, tell me a little. I mean, you obviously have a pretty good handle on this. Now, having grown up in the business has probably helped you a little bit. But you went to the short course at UMass. Did you get enough information from that? I mean, and I'm not trying to be critical, but did you get a feel for pathology? Did you get a feel for nutrition? I mean, what all can you say you got out of a program like that?
So I got a lot out of the program. I'm not going to knock the program.
I'm not trying to knock the program. I'm just comparing it to, if you were a 4-year student.
Yeah. I mean, obviously being a 4-year student, you're going to get a lot more hands-on. You're going to get a lot more in-depth. You can ask questions. You can go see.
I'm not sure if it's good or bad, but you might learn more. I don't know.
Right. No, the only thing that was lacking was the hands-on experience. Like, it's one thing to learn about, there's a whole irrigation course. It's one thing to learn about it. It's another thing to take an entire head apart in your hand. Like, I have this knowledge. So if it's for, someone who hasn't been in the business, I don't know if it would be as useful to them as, I've taken apart more heads than I can count. So that course, I don't need to get my hands on it. But for most people, to be able to dig through a soil or, a grass canopy or,
find the head, first of all.
And I'm like moving on to, scouting for any kind of weevil, bug, whatever.
Yeah, gotcha.
If you're searching the ground, looking for it, you don't realize like it's the size of the tip of your knife. Like, you don't get to have the same in-person experience. You can talk about it all day. You can point at the whiteboard and say, this is what you need to do. But it's a little different than, being in school.
Yeah. Did you learn that on the course? I mean, did somebody walk you through scouting bugs and pathogens and things of that nature?
Learning through, before I left, going for rides with Michael, he'll be, pointing stuff out. This is what it is. Lots of, studying for your chemical exam. That's, the biggest
right. Of course, you have to
time to learn all your stuff. Yeah, right. And so that forces you to learn it. And then when you go out and you say, oh, that's what this is, take a picture of it, and then send it off, say, it's a little self quiz. But I also do lots of work with our Tom Irwin rep, and he's been great, knowing that I don't have a problem asking for help. I think if I send him a picture, I'll send Michael the picture. I'll send someone else the same picture saying, what do you guys think? I have no pride in not asking. I ask for help all the time, even if it's annoyingly 5 a.m. phone calls.
Yeah. That might be the single most important thing in this industry, is to know that you're not alone, as they say at Tom Irwin. But I mean, I encourage, I get calls at all strange hours at midnight sometimes. And, somebody's like losing their mind because something's going nuts. And,
and I've apologized for all those phone calls.
I've blocked you since then, but I'll take Amanda's call any day now, but at any time of day, as long as I'm not asleep. And I usually, often I've been awakened by some of these calls over my years. But, it's one of the most rewarding things. And that's one of the great things about our industry, is that people are willing to help. But if you can't ask for help as a golf course superintendent, you're never going to be successful. And you got to ask a lot of people. Now, the question is, if you ask too many people and you get too many answers, how do you decipher the right ones? So you got to
go ask Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. You got to decipher all that, but that's all experience and all that stuff. How, I don't know how to ask this well, and I'm not even sure who to ask this out, but how well do you two work together as father, daughter? I mean, is it an easy, time, or do you, Amanda, maybe I should be asking you this. Does he bug you a lot? Does he leave you alone? Does he let you do your job? I mean, it must be nice to have that level of support, but I mean, how do you guys, and I guess I'm really asking this because there are a number of folks in the industry that do have, father-daughter, father-son relationships. How do you work together as a family?
I think, he leaves me alone for the most part. If there's something
for the most part. Did you hear that, Mike?
I heard it.
Well, if there's something that he wants, he has 30 something years of experience doing this to my, a decade, maybe.
Well, you've been there since you were born, for God's sake. You've been on the golf course for 29 years. What are you talking about, a decade?
Right. But, so if, hey, maybe we should, mix in a top dressing system. Like it's, even if it's in the back of my mind, it's a little reassurance. Yep. That is the right decision, good idea. And like, nice job. Pat yourself on the back a little bit. But, if I have questions, even about, a site specific irrigation question, like he'll say, take 3 steps to the left and go 5 steps forward and you'll find that box. It's one of those things that, he has some useful information. And,
so he does
if
know
there's stuff, yeah. And so, there's, how do I, clear up this problem? And, he has a role as the general manager saying, this needs to be better. Like, or improve here, kill all the weeds. We have an event coming up and this needs to be done. This needs to be done. This needs to be presentable. So he
brings experience to the table that allows you to kind of see what's going on.
Yeah. And, he brings expectations that need to be met.
Yeah. So Mike, having your daughter as the golf course superintendent, is it easy? Is it harder? Do you push her more than you would if you was a normal, a non-family member superintendent? I mean, what's in your head when you're dealing with your daughter as the person managing your responsibility?
Well, I don't really have to motivate her too much, because if we did, she wouldn't be with us.
Good answer.
I hear it all. I see the people, I see the leagues afterwards. Hopefully Amanda's home in bed while I'm hearing it. So I pass on information. And having been there 17 years, I can, I will give her my ideas or my thoughts, saying, while we took a little break earlier. I mean, we were talking about lowering greens heights because we're coming into June. We're coming into our peak season.
Yeah.
We were talking about getting another top dressing down. There'll be times where I'll just say, hey, things are looking hungry. Where are we on our nutrition? And those are just years of watching and trying to make her job easier. And Joel, it's funny because she teaches me a lot. I've been in this role.
You need it.
I do. And like we said, we always can continue to help or learn. When I was grinding, it was buzz. She sets it, forgets it, pushes a button and disappear. And I don't even know how that thing works, but just something like, I don't, and she's teaching me that. She's the sprayer she has now. I mean, Joel, I don't we measure out on the blacktop something flat, like 1,000 feet, and we'll calibrate it. I mean, the stuff she's doing, she'll send me these moisture meter readings, and I don't know what I'm looking at, to be completely honest, Joel. So I'm just
call Rob.
And that's a very common. I haven't kept up with the new chemistry, and then in my old role, I would know a lot more about it. I mean, as you know, I'm probably the biggest Earthworks fan out there. So that's my baby. But yeah, the chemistry, I don't care how it kills it, or just
kill it. Just kill it. Yeah.
And, so everything I pass on to her is to make her life easier. And I fully know that she should probably have a staff of 13 right now. And when I was the super and she was on the staff, she had 13. So she's working with a lot less than I.
Yeah. Everybody in the industry is, but it's got to be tough.
But
especially with the amount of rounds that you guys are running.
She fully gets the expectations. We share the vision. She wants the golf course to be the best it possibly can be. And sometimes I'll help her reprioritize what I think is important.
Right.
It's funny when you're looking at the total picture. There's high expectations of our club.
Yeah.
They expect a lot. That's why we charge a little bit more than everybody else.
Good.
But the whole clubhouse area, the pavilion area, even for the people who don't play, they need, the clubhouse has to be edged. The annuals the beds have to be weeded, mulched. Annuals can't be wilting.
It never stops.
Yeah. I mean, she's chasing wilt, and I'm like, the petunias over there are not looking. Yeah. Hit it with some Miracle Grow, and I know what she wants to say to me, and she's like, yeah, I'll get on it. But so it's
don't say Miracle Grow to me, by the way.
Sorry.
I plant with 333 actually. So
thank you very much. Here's your $20. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Wow.
I saw it, and I plant our flowers with 333.
As they should. So. It's mycorrhizae, baby. It's one of the best things you can possibly do.
A little sprinkle goes a long
That's
way.
all you need to do. Amanda, let me ask you this. Are you getting around? Are you getting a volunteer for any of the tournaments, the big things? A lot of folks, it's a great way to get out there in front of people. Have you done anything like that yet in your career?
I have not, but I'm going to Pebble Beach for the Women's Open this year.
Are you really? Good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was invited to go out there for the Women's Open with the Women in Turf Grass.
So you're going to be working, obviously. You're going to be schlepping. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good.
I can't wait. Hopefully I spin bunkers or something fun.
You're going to have a blast, and it's such a great group of people, and you'll see how incredibly dedicated and hardworking that group is. And you're going to meet some great people, and you're going to make some great friends. So I'm thrilled to hear that, because that's important, and it's great to get out there. I mean, I did a podcast with Tyler Bloom a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that he talked a lot about is building your personal brand. And that's one of the best things that you can do in your career, is get out in front of, and something like that, meet people, hear their stories, get to know them. Like I said, you'll make friends that you'll have for the rest of your life at that tournament. And hopefully you volunteer for a couple more. I know we're going to be a sponsor at the Women's Open in Lancaster in 24. So hopefully you come down and visit us. We're going to I think we're going to set this little podcast thing up at Lancaster. So maybe I shouldn't announce that quite yet. But I hate to tell you this, but we have run out of time. I got to say, it is really a pleasure. And Amanda, first of all, it's great pleasure officially meeting you now that you're not 5 years old anymore.
I feel like we've met many times via Tom Irwin's seminars, and
I've been there a few times, and
I only watch you never get to watch back.
Yeah, it's been going on for a very, very long time, and it's been a wonderful relationship. But Michael, 30 some years of knowing you, it's always been a pleasure. I always look forward to catching up. And it's unfortunate as we do age out, we're getting together less and less, but it's always fun to catch up with you. And I can see how proud you are of Amanda and her work. And I think it's just a great story. And that's why I really wanted to get you guys on here. But I can't thank you enough, both of you. And what's next for you, Amanda? Anything? Do you know? What's the future look like? Can you talk about with your dad there? Should I mute him for now?
The short future is I'm going to go back out and finish working on the sprinkler head that I was
Oh, there you go. I'm keeping you from work. I'm sorry to hear that.
That's all right.
No, it sounds like you have quite the future for you in whatever you want to do. So I would, obviously, it's just very impressive. And like I said, I've known your dad for a very, very long time. And as much as I make fun of, I wouldn't make fun of him if I didn't care and I didn't love him. So
right back at you, brother.
It goes way back, my friend. So thank you both very much for joining me. I will be happy to hear your growth stories, and I wish you the best of luck at Pebble. I think you're going to have a blast. That's going to be great fun. But Amanda and Mike Fontaine from the Ledges Golf Course, I can't thank you enough very much.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you, Joel.
And that, my friends, is the Earthworks podcast. We will be back next week. Please join us. Please subscribe so we can show you that a lot of cool people are coming on board like these two. And we'll be back again next week here on the Earthworks podcast.